Global Conference. My name is Karen Dunne-Squire and welcome to my keynote speech, Building a Sales Superpower. First of all, may I say a massive thank you to Leon for inviting me to join the event today, to all of the other speakers who have created such an amazingly content-rich programme, but most importantly to you, the delegates. It doesn't really matter which one of the three rooms that you're joining us from today. One thing is true, that you would all have some keenness and desire to have a really high-performing team. The effectiveness of everyone in your operation directly relates to the success that you have, the clients that you win, the money that you generate. So, we're going to spend some time today talking about that exact thing, about how you really truly can shape a business that can operate in any environment. It's going to be a nice little combination of me chatting with you and some slide materials that will get you to glance at occasionally as a frame of reference. But for now, let's start out by just telling you a little bit about me. So, my name is Karen Dunne-Squire and I am the Managing Director and owner of this business here. We are called Elation. Elation have been trading since March 2009 and we are a group of business growth experts who work with small, medium-sized businesses to help them really meet their growth aspirations. And we do that by helping them to build high-performing sales and marketing operations. But it doesn't matter how high quality your processes or practices are. It doesn't matter the quality of your technology or your technique. It doesn't matter about how sophisticated your approach when interacting with your clients is. If your people are not performing to their optimum, you will never get optimum results. And at Elation, we are a really human-centred business. We really believe that your business is a community of human beings, and if you treat it as such, then it will thrive. So if you have a person-centred approach to leadership, you are going to build a business that will be as powerful as you need and want and dreamed it would be. So what are we going to talk about today? This idea of building a sales superpower starts off with thinking about your culture. Starts off with thinking about what are the characteristics in your organisation that make sure that you have a really, really high performing operation. Yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit about culture and how it's defined. Then we're going to move on to talking about the most important part of the session for me today. We're going to talk about my total motivation model. Now this is a model that teaches you the 4 building blocks to a really high performing culture. And we're going to talk a bit about what those mean, what those characteristics are like, and how you can really embed them in your business. And then we're going to move on to talking about actually over the last 2 years, when applying the total motivation model, when thinking with organisations about how they can maximise the performance of their people, how have we had to adapt that in a pandemic environment? Yeah, and since the 23rd of March, and that fated year, when we all found out we were going to have to start working in a very different way, I've been speaking weekly with leaders, managers, directors, owners of businesses of all shapes and sizes, and I've been learning from them what it is that they've been doing to really support pandemic adaptation. That's a word in that, isn't it? Pandemic adaptation. I could play around with that. And what I've learned, university and over 100 over that conversations, is that the businesses who really adapted quickly and who managed to thrive throughout the pandemic environment are those businesses who are person-centric. So we're going to talk a lot about that today, and I'm going to share some stories. When we get to the end, I'm going to let you know how you can find out even more content that will guide you down the path of embedding a high-performing culture. But for now, if you're interested in understanding how you build a team of people who will thrive for you in any environment, then grab a pen, you're in the right place. Okay, so where I want to start with you all is by thinking about culture. Whenever I speak to an organisation about what's the culture like around here, I often get a lot of blank faces. People seem to find the idea of a working environment culture difficult to define, difficult to put a real, finger point on. And I'd like you to think about, imagine your business is a human body. Yeah, imagine that I am an organisation today, and my bones and my skin and my organs and my hair and my teeth and my fingernails, the body part of me is the logistics and the operations, and it's what goes on around there. It's the machine, the process, the delivery methods that you have. Yeah, the personality is your culture. It's how does it feel to be around here. And although culture in itself, when applied to a business, can be a really interesting thing to define, we know that culture is made up of a few things. There's some ingredients that make your business the culture that it is. These are things like your values. Yeah? What are the things that are really true for you as a business? And does everybody align themselves to those values? Yeah? I often find that businesses might have a value, for example, fun. And you exist in their environment and you know for certain sure there's not a lot of fun happening around there. Yeah? So either your business has no values at all, or your business has values that aren't being aligned to, then it's likely that you have a culture that's not allowing optimum performance. So values are one of the things that I would like you guys to think about. There's other things that make up the culture, the personality of your business, and that's behaviours. Yeah, how do people act when they're in your organisation? And there is not really any right or wrong in terms of business style of behaviour. And the way that you would behave in a firm of solicitors would be very different from the way you would behave if you worked in a circus. Yeah, it's about defining what behaviours are appropriate in your business and making sure that everybody lives and aligns to those behaviours. So these are all the things that start to make up how your business speaks to the people it makes contact with. So values, behaviours. Let me throw another one into the mix. Tone. Yeah, your brand, tone of voice, the language that we use, the way that we speak. Yeah? Do you articulate yourself in a way that is formal and corporate and professional? Do you articulate yourself in a way that is fun and flippant and carefree? Does everyone articulate themselves in a consistent way? Does it actually align itself with the experience that people have when they work with your brand? You know, too many times I see an organisation that is actually really, really very corporate, professional and formal, and perhaps they're throwing out some really informal language and discussion. So the way that we talk, both internally and externally, defines a lot about how it feels to work around here. So we've got our behaviours, the brand tone of voice, we've got the way that we align to our values. Another defining factor around culture is style. Yeah, and often style is not a phrase that is used to define a business. But however, the way that your business styles itself, the way that its materials look, the way that your office premises are laid out, the way that you expect people to dress, everything that creates the sense of visual inclusion in your business defines whether that's a pleasant place to work in. And I'm sure you can all think about 2 boardrooms that you've been into in your life. And one boardroom is slightly shabby. It's got really poor furniture in it. It's a bit grubby and dusty in the corners. There's some old computer in the corner that needs winding up with a handle, you know. There's no refreshments anywhere. There's nothing visually pleasing. There's no plants. Clearly hasn't been cleaned for a while. The coasters have got dark little rings on them. Yeah. And then there's the other boardroom that you enter that's beautifully designed and full of light and clean as a whistle and brightly coloured and vibrant and kitted out with stunning stationery and really well designed furniture. Those 2 boardrooms speak of very different businesses. So all of these things, the style, the tone, the behaviours, the values, are all building together to create an experience that you have when you interact with that business. And creating an internal employee experience, that means interacting with your business is a wonderful thing to do, is about creating a high performing culture. So, note number 1 on your bit of paper, just in the corner somewhere where your next door neighbour couldn't see you. I want you to just write down a mark out of 10 for yourself. It's the way you think your culture is. The environment that you're creating, the behaviours, the style, the tone of your business. So start thinking about that. And please note that we have a richer slide deck that you'll be able to take advantage of. That'll have some notes around this for you. So make sure that you check out on our stand those further materials. Okay, so we're starting to get a sense of what your culture is. The culture is your personality of the business. The culture is the words that people use to describe what your business is like. Yeah, start asking some really open and investigative questions. What 3 words would you use to describe the organisation? If those words are not words you're comfortable with, then you've probably got a bit of work to do around culture. But let's take some of the art out of this. Let's try and remove ourselves from the world of talking about creative, subjective things. And let's start thinking about, if you really want to attack your culture head on, what model can you use? Well, at Elation, about 5 years ago now, I decided that I wanted to build a set of foundations, a set of practices that would allow any organisation, no matter its size or its budget, to actually start to dig around in, have we got the right characteristics to drive performance? We created this. This is called the Total Motivation Model. You will see these slides again. You have no need to memorise them. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to just take them in for a second as I speak, because these are the 4 building blocks of a really high-performing business. If you have strength in all 4 of these areas in your organisation, you will have total motivation. And it is a constant job in every organisation as it evolves and changes to audit and understand these areas and make sure that it's thinking about them very seriously. So let's begin at the beginning, if I may. Building block number 1 is functional surroundings. So please make a note of that, and we'll continue to speak about that relevance there. So at a very fundamental level, a business needs to ensure that the environment that it is creating for its employees is correct. Yeah? That you have surroundings in which someone can properly and correctly do their work. So with functional surroundings, we are thinking about the quality of the furniture and the desk spaces, the quality of the technological equipment that you're providing. We're thinking about the quality of the refreshment area. We're thinking about whether people have easy access to heating, lighting, drinks, whether your range of tea and coffees is of a decent standard, whether the stationery available is of a decent standard. If I'm on the road, is my car a vehicle I can be proud of? Talking about all of the physical things that you can touch and feel in the working environment. Do they meet the standards that your business wants to hit? And let's be fair, I've lived and worked in a small business for 12 years now, and I've helped over 400 others, and we don't all have unlimited budgets. However, businesses who really do care about attracting the best provide the best. And if a very, very high caliber candidate comes into your organisation and spends several weeks working with substandard materials, you will struggle to retain that individual, and for the period of time that you keep them, they will not perform to their optimum. So please bear that in mind. So there's a lot of things that we can tangibly do around this idea of functional surroundings. Doing audits of your workspace environment, looking at your workspace environment with a design eye, trying to align your workspace environment with your brand. At Elation, we have all of our furniture and our dressings and our crockery and cutlery tied in with the brand colours. Anything that you can do to make that real for your customers and staff alike starts to build a foundation of a good performance environment. Okay. So once you've got your functional surroundings in place, that's base level for a business, people are likely to show up and feel at least capable of working. It will impact on the lower level of their motivation. The next thing is this message of consistency of expectations. Yeah? Human beings like certainty. We're creatures of habit. We like to have consistent operating policies and procedures. We like to have stability in our environment. We like to know what we can expect in any given situation. So I want you to think about your business, think about a few things around consistency of expectations that might just help to understand how we apply these. A business that has excellent consistency of expectations delivers in a stable way throughout the journey of the employee. So we come in and we have a really great experience at recruitment. We have an interview that lays out our roles and our responsibilities. We then come on board, we have an induction. The induction is of a good quality. It helps us to know and understand how our role should be carried out. It helps to introduce us comfortably to all of our colleagues. We then carry out a role day to day that is broadly connected to the job description that we were recruited to do. And we are delivering what was set of us in that first expectation. We need to work in a business environment where we know that we'll consistently be paid on time. We know that we'll consistently have a one-to-one when we're offered one. We know that we'll consistently be managed in a good and clear way. We know that we consistently deliver to our customers. Yeah, it's in businesses where there's a lack of stability and a lack of clear messaging that people underperform. And I don't think you can ever underestimate the challenges of a lack of consistent expectations. So think about how in your business you make incredibly clear what is expected and you deliver on that clarity. So, functional surroundings, point number one. Then we move on to consistency of expectations. If we are able to establish those two bedrocks, if we are able to make sure that our business is delivering in those areas, the next thing we really need to be thinking about is this community and acceptance. Okay. So, community and acceptance is where we're moving to a level of real quality connection with the business. This is where we are making sure that our connections go beyond the day-to-day and we're suddenly moving into an environment of trust. And the business must facilitate that. Yeah? And not just with team building exercises, which we all know are designed to create bonding between individuals, but it is not just a table tennis table that makes your business a high performing business. Yeah? What we really need to see in place is a very people-centered approach in the way that we behave. So I'll give you an example. I worked with a business not too long ago. They recognised they had cultural problems. I visited them on site. When I walked into the open plan office with the managing director, not a single human being's head raised from their desk. Yeah? In high performing businesses where there's high levels of community and acceptance, everybody would have looked up from their desk and happily and positively greeted both the managing director and the guest in that business. Yeah? We're people centric. We notice one another, we see one another, we make sure that we step up and connect with one another. Maybe we send each other a birthday card on our birthdays, but we're trying to build a sense of community and connection in our organisation. And there's many things that you can do here to attempt to understand how well your business is connected. Try cross-departmental discussions. Yeah, how well do all the guys in finance know all the guys in procurement? Yeah, has the person in HR ever met the head of sales and had a coffee with them? Yeah, how are you really making sure that your business is a united workforce and everyone in it feels part of it? Recognising people's favourite coffee to drink, recognising people's favourite band are things that make people feel like they belong. And without a sense of belonging, we never give ourselves the freedom to excel. So community and acceptance, and I want you to think about how you can build that as we talk. Okay, so the final area that we build towards with these building blocks of total motivation is this idea of respect and engagement. This is the pinnacle, really. When we reach the point where everyone in your business feels highly respected and everyone in your business is engaged with and to the business, then you know that you're really creating the right environment. So respect and engagement is everyone's value recognised in that organisation. Respect and engagement is about, do I feel like I have a voice? And does that apply to everybody across the business universally? Do I have clear rigour about how I'm going to be rewarded? Equally, what are the consequences if I under-deliver? It's really intriguing for me when I work with businesses who are doing pretty well, but not brilliantly. It's very rarely the praise that's missing. It's almost always the challenge. Yeah? Respect and engagement is about taking responsibility for making sure that everyone in that business is as successful as they can possibly be. And that means critical, challenging consequences. So as much as we celebrate when we see great performance, we also need to coach, challenge and critique when we don't. And an environment that has low levels of accountability, ambitious people do not thrive. People who are desperate to be better, do better and have better need to be constantly being given guidance and tips around how to improve. So if you work in an environment with low levels of feedback, low levels of accountability, if you work in an environment where people's weaknesses aren't consistently being turned into strengths, then you are going to have a missing gap in your performance. So respect and engagement is not just about those high level behaviours, fantastic internal communication strategies, really good feedback culture. It's also about creating an environment of accountability. Yeah, I know that the work that I do will be noticed and that there will be consequences, both positive and negative, for that work. So now the total motivation model can take weeks and months to embed in a business. Where we tend to start is by doing some audit and evaluation of what's happening right now. So with regard to your functional surroundings, here you might even have someone with a design-led eye do some kind of audit and assessment evaluation of your space and see what could be done to make that environment better. Yeah. With regard to respect and engagement, we might be doing employee surveys, we might be carrying out feedback measures and performance measures to understand. We might be having group forums within our organisation to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to share thoughts and ideas. But the place we need to begin is by digging around in what these ideas might mean for your business and seeing how clear you really are. So why don't you take as a job to pick one of these boxes, consistency of expectations maybe. Pick one of these boxes and think really carefully today about how well your business does. Are all of the expectations of all of the team members clearly set, and are they consistently reinforced? So the questions that I'd like to be asking you now, for you to just be thinking about in your head to stimulate some discussion for yourselves, is what tangible evidence do you have of your business's strengths or weaknesses in any of these areas? So I'll take a moment for you to look at these slides. Based on just what we've discussed today, what might be core here for you? Okay, thanks for doing that. Let me explain how we put this into context. So the building blocks for high performing teams allow us to evaluate and benchmark where a business is now and put in place interventions that will raise that business up in all of these areas, thus creating a better working environment, happier, more engaged and more motivated individuals. And we went into businesses all over the UK and did this hundreds and hundreds of times prior to that day on March the 23rd. Then what happened was we had to try and apply our total motivation model in a remote world. So every single story that I've just told you became irrelevant. What does my office look like? Do people put their head up and say hello to me when I come into the office? Yeah, all of those things were suddenly no longer an influencing factor in our work. Everyone went back to their remote workforces, they all went back to their homes and they stayed there. And some will continue to stay there. And in the rooms today, I'm sure we'll have some of you who have organisations that are fully back to work, some who will always embrace hybrid working and some who are still at home. But the reality is, the lessons that we have learned about how to create a high-performing culture with a distributed workforce will remain powerful lessons regardless of your business model. Because if you are in a lucky situation that your business community is back together and working in a really, really effective face-to-face way, it's never going to hurt you to apply some really sophisticated management techniques to that workforce. And if you are dealing with the challenges of having a distributed workforce, there's a lot that you can learn out of today. So let me tell you a bit about what we've learnt since the remote working was all enforced upon us. March 23rd, over the 400 businesses in the UK, America and Australia that we work with, we suddenly had to adapt and improvise in a very, very different way. And we spoke to all of our clients who were sending people home to work, and we asked them if they would like to take part in a remote working total motivation model experiment. And we have spent about the last 18 months working exclusively with businesses, talking to them about this total motivation model. And I'm going to spend about 10 minutes now just telling you the stories of that experience. So we took a business and we said to them, right, in order to get your workforce home and working effectively, we need to apply this model from the ground up. So we started out with functional surroundings. So the first thing we did is we sent every employee into their home working space with a mobile phone. And we asked them to do a walking tour of the environment that they were going to work in. And we did some assessment around that environment. Was the furniture appropriate? Was the lighting appropriate? Was the computer equipment appropriate? What might be the logistical challenges of that? And we've done home workplace audits with managing directors who have, 100 square foot of private study in their home. And we've done it with teams of 20-year-old telephone sales workers who are all working from their beds, cross-legged in their pajamas mainly. So every single workplace scenario is different. There are a couple of things that we wanted to really reinforce in the environments these people were working in. Number one, we needed to make sure that absolutely everybody felt that they had a functional, safe space to work in. So we would make sure that there was the right furniture, the right technical equipment, the right stationery sent to the homes. We also wanted everybody to feel like they were still connected to their business while they're in their workplace. So we advocated that people deliver plants in the company colours, or people deliver mouse mats with the branding on it, that we in some way attempted to brand the workspace so that everyone had a branded area. And of course, we know that at 5 o'clock when work is finished, that all goes in a drawer so their mates can come round. But workspace differentiation is absolutely fundamental. One of my favourite stories is of a client who ordered reams and reams of carpet tape in the company brand so that every work member could draw with carpet tape their workspace so that they stepped into work each morning. Yeah? Every single touch like that makes those surroundings more functional and means that they feel connected to your business even when they're at home. So that was step number one. Yeah? If you've got home workers now, you can be doing that activity, thinking about how you are influencing the effectiveness of their working environment even when you're not there with them. Okay, so second, consistency of expectations. So we had very clear guidelines sent out by all of our customers to make sure that everybody in all of their teams knew exactly what the working expectations were, and we asked them to be really specific. So how regularly they're going to have contact with their team, how regularly they're going to have contact with their managers, how we would expect people to structure their day, what expectations they would have if they needed help or support, what expectations we had around the number of breaks that they would take. Very, very clear guidelines about what we knew would be different and challenging for them, and helping them to understand how people in this business deal with that. And may I say something challenging? For those of you who are thinking, I don't want to micromanage my people, there is a big difference between saying to somebody, in this organisation, we all like to take an hour for lunch at about 1 o'clock. All of your colleagues will be live on a Zoom call when that happens. We'd love you to join us. Than it is to ring them at 2:01 and make sure they're at their desk. So there's setting expectations of what it is to work around here versus micromanagement, and one of them I love and the other one much less so. So consistency of expectations is number one, around setting them. Setting those expectations of people. So my clients did things like setting a home working contract, terms and conditions for fun. Yeah, how are we going to make sure that in the working day we don't suffer from loneliness, boredom, lack of connection? How are we going to achieve those things? Really important. And making sure that throughout this difficult period where consistency was almost impossible, you crank up the communication. Yeah? One of the things we know is that stability in working environment is of high importance to human beings. When that possibility came off everybody's table all those months ago, the key thing is to make sure that as things change and the environment is moving, communication from the top is very clear. We can, in psychological experiments, replace consistency with stability if someone's in control and setting those expectations. So we can already see that being very, very clear about those two areas can have a real impact on how you've adjusted in post-pandemic times. So let's move on. Community and acceptance. Making sure that you understand where you sit within the business, making sure you're connected with your colleagues, and making sure that you feel brought in and recognised by everybody in the organisation. It's hard enough when we're all working in the office together. How we do that in a distributed workforce requires some real creativity. So one of the things that we have asked everybody to do in the organisations that we've worked with is make sure that the levels of know, like and trust in the business are high. Yeah, it is often the case in organisations that people who have disparate roles don't connect well with one another, even in a working environment. So having short one-to-one coffees on a rota where everyone has to meet and chat with one of their colleagues on a regular basis can create that community and acceptance. Every time it's somebody's birthday, birthday communication sent out by email to everybody in the team saying happy birthday to that individual from the top of the business. It's recognition, it's acceptance. Yeah? One of the best businesses that I work with did a wonderful thing where they created a really lovely piece of designed kind of photo book graphic, which they sent out every Monday for everybody to watch in the morning while they were having their cup of coffee, that had photos of anyone who'd done anything particularly interesting in their homes or work life. It had the profiles of any new starters that had joined the business. It had the highs and the lows. It had photos of new products. It had all sorts of really interesting and innovative and engaging updates around the business community that everyone could take a look at and share. We have Monday morning check-ins where everyone in the business has to say hello via WhatsApp to make sure that everyone can see who's working and who they're working with. We have afternoon we got this gatherings to make sure that everyone gets to come in and say one thing they're grateful for or one thing they're celebrating. At Elation, we do our bests and worsts every Friday. We talk about the best thing that's happened that week and the worst thing that's happened that week. We all get together as a team. There's often wine. It's very nice. Yeah? As an individual manager, making sure that you have the tools and techniques to truly understand how your team are enacting and performing is key. And there's an awful lot in this community and acceptance that can be well supported by technology. Yeah? How can you have sight over what's happening with your team and make sure that you open up really, really strong lines of communication and be agile to your business needs? So, I want you to think of 5 things right now that you think you could do better to make the sense of community and acceptance within your organisation stronger. So how can you use communication? How can you use technology? How can you use a person-centred manager approach to really maxing out community and acceptance? Okay, we have one more area to discuss, and this is the biggie. The respect and engagement. Now, when I am sitting, potentially in my back bedroom, maybe in my lounge, with my dog and my sister and my hamster, probably a child or two, a really poor Wi-Fi connection, and the Amazon driver ringing on the doorbell every 35 seconds, how can I feel that sense of the value that I add? How can I feel that sense of being seen and observed and respected by my organisation? Well, the short answer is it's not very easy. The longer answer is businesses who care will make the effort. Yeah? So respect is about my value is acknowledged. Yeah? Respect is about I am given constant critical feedback. Engagement is about I am asked my opinions. I have an opportunity to express myself. I have forums for self-development. These are all very, very high quality, sophisticated management approaches that cannot be missing in any organisation. But what we found is that the one area that we could not functionally support without technology is respect and engagement. Yeah, different pieces of software to allow our colleagues to video chat with one another, to allow our colleagues to zap a little voice message into their other colleague's day, software to analyse and assess what's being delivered in these back bedrooms so that we can keep the recognition high because we know what's happening in those back bedrooms. Software to audit, analyse and engage with people is absolutely fundamental. But no piece of technology is any use without decent leadership behind it to communicate and manage that technology. So the ideas here around respect and engagement is how do you stay present in the life of your employees when you know that you might not actually see them for many weeks or months. So you can see how working with businesses to see how they are managing, motivating and maintaining connection with their teams across this 4-step model can be incredibly powerful. I want to finish up today by just talking you through not just the characteristics of the business, but the traits of the individual leaders. So, traits and skills for successfully leading a distributed workforce. Creative. And I don't mean creative as in great with drawing because I'm terrible at that. Creative as in able to innovate new ideas. I want Jane, who sits in my team, to have the same sense of our business when she's at home as she has when she's in work. So much of that is subliminal. So much of that is heard out of the corner of your ear or seen out of the corner of your eye or experienced around the water cooler. It can be small, gentle touch points. Doesn't need to be a 1-hour video Zoom call every morning to check in on performance. It could be a walk and talk, where once a week you get one of your team to go for a nice stroll around in the countryside or in their local town and you chat with them and get them away from their screen and talk to them about what's happening in their lives. Are your managers creating and innovating new ways of engaging with your team? Are they tech savvy? I am not tech savvy. I have people in my business who are tech savvy because transforming your business digitally has been a minimum standard in this period of post-pandemic working. And the other area here is agile. If you are still doing most of the things that you were doing before the pandemic happened, you haven't changed enough, quite simply. Yeah? Businesses that are able to very well evolve, who are not frightened of changing the status quo, are the type of businesses that can allow structure to change and adapt regardless of the environment. So thinking about the individuals in your business, do they have these qualities? Do you indeed prize these qualities and ask your team members to focus on them where needed? A few more here that I would want you to think about. These are just characteristics that we've observed when talking to business owners who've really been nailing this. Empathy. Yeah? Dial up your empathy, dial up your profits. Absolutely guaranteed. If you truly understand what it feels like to be in your business and how your staff feel about what they are doing, you will be much better able to impact on it. Understanding is everything, and empathy is about caring. Okay, authenticity. Yeah? We've all had to be a little bit prepared to be vulnerable over this last little while. If you are in your back bedroom in your pyjamas trying to homeschool 3 children with a dog on the floor that's just been sick and you're expected to hold a high level conference call, you need to bring a bit of humanity to that environment. So we need to see really strong authenticity. Regular relational content. Those of you who are saying, it's alright, we do one-to-ones every day, we do team dial-ins every week. If every single one of the touch points that your staff have with your business are about their performance, you're not building community and acceptance. Relational contact is about the non-work stuff, which, in case you didn't realise, is the reason why most people go to work. Expressiveness. Making sure that you share thoughts, feelings and opinions in a way that really has impact. And last but not least, fostering accountability. An environment where my performance is non-negotiable is an environment where I will do better. So ask yourself, the last time that you moaned about somebody not doing what they needed to do, or a department not hitting the targets that they need to hit, talk to me about how structured your accountability conversation was with that team. Because if you didn't address that with a quality conversation, then you were part of the lack of performance. So that's the total motivation model. That's a model that regardless of what department you're working in, regardless of what type of business you run, that's a model that gets human beings deeply committed to working with your organisation. And whatever the working environment, whether in a period of boom or bust, whether your business is in a period of peak or trough, making sure that everybody in that organisation is fiercely aligned to the positive culture that you're trying to build will ensure you have really genuine business success. So let's finish up exactly where we started by reminding you that your business is a community of human beings, and if you treat it as such, it will thrive. Thank you.